Yo, what's up everyone? Welcome to the Fantasy Football Prodigy channel. And once again, I have another video for you guys where I'm going to be setting my lineups across my 4 fantasy football leagues. We are heading into week 9 of the 2021 fantasy football season. So in each league, we're going to recap week 8, go over all the transactions that I made, and then we're going to set the lineups for this week. We've got tons of decisions to make. We have a bunch of players not playing. We don't have Derrick Henry. We have the Buccaneers on bye, so no Calvin Ridley, no Antonio Brown on my teams, no Tom Brady. We had Brady in a few leagues as well. So yeah, we got half PPR, non-PPR, full PPR, 1 quarterback, 2 quarterback, all sorts of stuff to go through here in this video. So we're going to start with this league. This is a non-PPR 1 quarterback league, and we're just going to recap week 8 and then move on to the transactions and then go into week 9. So I got a lucky win. I only scored 81.1 points. Heading into the night games, my opponent needed like 15-ish points out of Justin Jefferson, Dalton Schultz, and Harrison Butker combined. And well, I ended up getting the narrow victory. So we got very lucky. Tom Brady had a good game, but Derrick Henry, Khalil Herbert, 6.8 points each. Derrick Henry is on IR. He's going to miss most, if not all, of the season. Other than that, Deebo Samuel had a good game, but really no good games outside of that. Antonio Brown was out. I wasn't going to put Mike Davis in my lineup after his 1-point game. Robbie Anderson continues to do nothing. Calvin Ridley, he was a late inactive because he is taking a leave from football for mental health reasons. We had Mark Andrews on bye. David Montgomery is still on injured reserve. So we were very shorthanded, but we were very, very blessed to get the victory despite not scoring many points. So we got a little bit lucky there. And then if we take a look at the transactions in this league, so these are the transactions that kind of went through. Nothing too crazy in terms of what we did. We did add Tua to the squad because we do need a quarterback with Tom Brady on bye. I'll get into that in a second. I also added Sterling Shepard and dropped Trey Sermon. And those are all the transactions that I personally made. And now we got to go ahead and set the lineup. So Tua is listed as questionable. I'm not sure if he's going to play or not. I haven't heard that his status is super in doubt as of this recording. So as of now against Houston, I do like that matchup. I think that he can exploit that defense a little bit. And he has been hot lately in the right matchups. But other than that, we are pretty shorthanded this week outside of the quarterback position. No Tom Brady at quarterback, so that's why we picked up Tua. Derrick Henry, we're not going to have him for most of the season, if not the rest of the season. AB is on bye. Calvin Ridley is still going to be out as he's away from the field. Sterling Shepard is listed as doubtful. David Montgomery is still on injured reserve. So luckily, we do have Khalil Herbert. He's going up against Pittsburgh, but he's just one of my best options at running back. And Mike Davis, this is not me recommending playing him at all, but out of all the options I have, and this is a pretty deep league, so the waiver wire is very weak. I wasn't able to get McNichols or Adrian Peterson, so I got to put Mike Davis out there against the Saints. So these are 2 tough matchups. Khalil Herbert has at least shown some ability and some efficiency with his touches, whereas Mike Davis hasn't been the best, but those are really the 2 only healthy bodies that can do something that I have. At wide receiver, I got DJ Moore. He's been a little quiet lately, but I am going to play him against the Patriots. I wouldn't go away from him unless you have like a really, really strong receiving core. We have Kadarius Toney in at our other wide receiver spot right now. He is listed as questionable. If he plays, he's in there. Same with Deebo Samuel. He's pretty much an auto start every single week. He's also questionable. So hopefully those 2 play. If not, I mean, hey, I don't really want to play Chenault against the Bills' stout defense. I might have to go ahead and add someone off the waiver wire. I'm not really sure what the options are looking like, but hopefully those 2 play. And if I do make any changes to this lineup, let's say Tua or Kadarius Toney or Deebo Samuel are out, I will comment those changes down below in the comments. I'll pin the comments, so make sure to monitor the comments if you're watching this later in the week to see if I make any changes to the lineup, because I am recording this a little bit before the Thursday game, so it's probably going to get posted around that time once the game starts. So, you know, a lot is going to change by the time Sunday rolls around. And we got the Pittsburgh Steelers defense against Chicago. That's pretty much the one matchup that I like in my whole lineup. We got Mason Crosby at kicker against the Chiefs. Now we're going to move on to this league. So that was a non-PPR league we just covered. This is a half PPR, 2 quarterback league. Both of the leagues that we've went over so far are redraft leagues, by the way. The first one was a standard snake draft. This one was an auction draft. And last week we got absolutely destroyed. I had the least points in the league. Another team outscored me by like a little over 1, but yeah, horrible week for me. You can see the lineup here. Kyler Murray and Teddy Bridgewater didn't do anything. James Robinson left early. Travis Kelce had his worst game in probably forever. Emmanuel Sanders got goosed, and I loved that start. He did nothing. Sterling Shepard, 4.5. DJ Moore, 7.9. I mean, Aaron Jones and Chuba Hubbard were the only ones that did really anything. We had no Devontae Adams. And yeah, that's pretty much it in terms of like major inactives for this team. And yeah, my opponent just had a really good week, and I had a horrible week. So nothing too crazy to say there, honestly. So these are the transactions right here. I'll just go to my team to look over what transactions I personally made in this league. So I added James Conner, who was surprisingly on the waiver wire. I added him for 33 out of the, well, we started with $200 fab dollars. I obviously don't have that much left, but that's what we started with. So I added him for 33 out of whatever I had left. And I picked up AJ Dillon for $3. I dropped Jeff Wilson just because I want to handcuff Aaron Jones. It's about that time of the year. I actually tried trading for AJ Dillon various times throughout the year, and his manager never wanted to give him up. Well, he dropped him recently, so I was able to pick him up for $3 fab dollars. And I picked up Adrian Peterson as well for 27 fab dollars. To me, that was a nice little addition to the team. And now we have to set our lineup this week. So in terms of tough decisions, man, I guess this has more to do with who is going to be starting this week, more so than any really tough decisions, as I accidentally didn't mean to do that. Okay, we're back. So at quarterback, Teddy Bridgewater is in there against Dallas. Hopefully it's a high-scoring game. Hopefully Denver has to put up points, but I don't have Jared Goff. Zach Wilson is injured, so, and there's really no one on the waiver wire. Taysom Hill got picked up for more fab than I even had left, so these are my best options. Kyler Murray is currently questionable. If he doesn't play, I'll have to pick someone up. I'd probably pick up Jordan Love. That would be my only option, really. If Jordan Love gets picked up in the meantime, I'll have to play a non-quarterback in the flex spot. Hopefully it doesn't result to that, but I'd be looking to play James Conner, Adrian Peterson, someone like that. But let's start with what we know for sure as of this recording. Devontae Adams, DJ Moore, and Emmanuel Sanders, they're all locked in the lineup. Devontae Adams is an every week start, even without Rodgers. DJ Moore is an elite player. I think he will get back on track. And even though he's been, pretty poor recently for his standards, he's still been okay for fantasy. It's better than picking up like Jamison Crowder off the waiver wire. Now watch, Jamison Crowder will have a crazy game. But you get the point, right? Emmanuel Sanders against Jacksonville. I like the matchup. I liked the matchup last week. Just a lot of the, all the targets went to Cole Beasley, Stephon Diggs. It just wasn't a good game for Sanders. So hopefully, all I'm going to say is I don't expect a goose again. Travis Kelce coming off a down game. I'm still going to start him. And then Aaron Jones against Kansas City, auto start. So this is where things get a little bit murky here. James Robinson is day-to-day. He's got a little bit of an injury. It is Thursday as of this recording, before the Thursday night game, like I said. So I'll have to monitor what's going on with James Robinson. And then Chuba Hubbard, he's filling in for Christian McCaffrey. There's talk that Christian McCaffrey might return this week. So I'll have to monitor that. If McCaffrey starts, I will take Chubbard, I always call him that, Chuba Hubbard out of the lineup. If James Robinson does not play, I will take him out of the lineup. If I have to replace those running backs, as of this recording right now, I would put James Conner in first, just because of his goal line role on the team. And then next, I would put Adrian Peterson in. So if one of them is out, I'll put James Conner in. If both are out, I'll put Conner and Adrian Peterson in. I just don't know for the Titans. I don't know how the workload is going to be distributed between McNichols and Adrian Peterson, but I think both will be somewhat involved. So I'm going to stick with these two unless those changes are made. And remember, monitor the comments down below to see if I make any changes to the lineup. So in this previous league, we are currently the second seed at 6-2. In this league, we are 4-4. We're ranked 6 out of 10, so we really need to get some wins going here. Now we're going to move on to this league where I actually have a pretty strong team, but I'm still only 4-4. We got beat last week. I had 152 points in this league. So it's not like I would have beat most teams last week. I just went up against the highest scoring team in the league. So it was just unfortunate. It is what it is. You're going to have that in fantasy sometimes. But this is a quick little recap. Josh Allen did great. Mahomes didn't do much. The running backs, Damian Harris, Cordero Patterson did good, but Dalvin Cook didn't do much for me either. So Mahomes and Cook really let me down. TJ Hawkinson had a nice game. These two receivers that I plugged in didn't do much because Calvin Ridley and Antonio Brown were not active. Luckily, Tyler Lockett Did good against Jacksonville. He had been a little bit cold, but my options were weak enough where I luckily didn't take him out of the lineup, and he finally had a good game. And then on the bench, I probably should have played Daryl Williams somehow, but I wasn't going to play him over, Dalvin Cook or anything. So, no real crazy decisions there that we made wrong. It was just an unlucky week. We had a good week, just didn't get the win. And then in terms of transactions, what did we do? I actually made quite a few transactions in this league. So let's see here. What did I do? So I added Adrian Peterson, dropped Latavius Murray. I just think Adrian Peterson has a little bit more upside if he can be the lead back in Tennessee, whereas in Baltimore they're really using a bunch of running backs. It's kind of ugly. It could be the same thing in Tennessee, but I kind of like AP. And in addition to that, I was also able to add McNichols shortly before I started recording this video, so I do have that backfield locked down, unless some surprising third candidate pops up. But other than that, I dropped Christian Kirk. I added Van Jefferson. I'm going to be starting Van Jefferson this week. I'll go over that in a second. I added the Cowboys, dropped the Bears defense. I picked my original punter I drafted, AJ Cole, was on bye last week, so I picked him back up. And I actually dropped Daryl Williams for McNichols, just because Daryl Williams, I think, Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to come back eventually. Daryl Williams will go back to that number 2 spot in the offense. And even last week, I think his last name was Gore. Is it Derek Gore for the Chiefs? He was also very involved. So if Daryl Williams is going to be splitting carries there, and then once Clyde Edwards-Helaire comes back, I'm fine dropping Daryl Williams for now, just so I can pick up Jeremy McNichols, lock down that Tennessee backfield. And McNichols, to me, is someone who has long-term value, whereas Daryl Williams is a little bit more capped, because once Clyde comes back, Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to be the main running back there. And I did drop Mike Davis for Dan Arnold. I added Dan Arnold because, as you can see here, TJ Hawkinson is on bye, so I needed a tight end. I didn't want to drop Mike Davis necessarily, but he was the next up. I dropped Daryl Williams, and then I dropped Mike Davis. I don't want to drop Madison. He's the handcuff for Dalvin Cook. I have the Tennessee backfield locked up, so he was just the next person to drop. So setting the lineups for this week, we have Josh Allen as an auto start every week, especially against Jacksonville. I love that. I am playing Mahomes against Green Bay. I'm sticking with him over Jalen Hurts against the Chargers, but Jalen Hurts has been very consistent outside of last week. It's a legitimate question. Should you play Hurts or Mahomes? But I'm going to stick with Mahomes for this week. And then other than that, we still have Russell Wilson. I picked him up off of the waivers. I dropped Trey Lance for him. And I picked up Russell Wilson, and he should be returning somewhat soon. We're without Calvin Ridley again this week. No Antonio Brown, no Tyler Lockett, no TJ Hawkinson. So we have a lot of running back wide receiver decisions to make here. So Dalvin Cook is an auto start. Cordell Patterson, even with a tough matchup, at this point, he's basically an auto start. Unless you went really running back heavy and, you picked up Patterson off of waivers and you just have an elite running back core, Patterson is pretty much an auto start. This decision here is interesting. I am playing Damian Harris. It's a tough matchup against the Carolina Panthers, but I like him better than the options I have. That would be, Madison. He's the backup. I'm not going to play him over Harris. Adrian Peterson and McNichols. I'd rather just stay with Damian Harris, who's been productive. Granted, in good matchups, I am just going to stick with Damian Harris because he's a little bit more of a sure thing. And even though the matchup is tough against the Carolina Panthers, I still think Harris will get the workload because I don't expect the Patriots to be trailing heavily in this game. I think it'll be a competitive game, and the Patriots will be able to give Damian Harris, enough volume to where he should be somewhat relevant. And if he gets in the end zone, he's a great play. At wide receiver, we are very, very, very weak. However, though, because no Lockett, no Antonio Brown, no Calvin Ridley. Those were my top 3 wide receivers. So I picked up Van Jefferson. It's a good matchup against Tennessee. He's on the Rams. I'm going with him. Hunter Renfrow, he's just a solid this is a full PPR league, by the way, 2 quarterback. This was a standard redraft, snake draft. So in a full PPR league, especially Hunter Renfrow is solid. The matchup with the Giants doesn't scare me. In that same game, Kadarius Toney, just like that other league, if he plays, I am going to be playing him. If not, I will have to drop somebody. And at this point, I don't know who I would drop because I really don't want to drop Madison. He has no value right now because, Cook is healthy. But if and when Cook gets hurt, Madison becomes a running back 1. So I would almost rather drop Kadarius Toney. The waiver wire in this league is a little bit, there's a lot more players available in this league than that first league that I showed you. So I'm not even sure Kadarius Toney would get picked up right away if I dropped him. He's someone that long-term I do like, but just because of, the bye weeks and the injuries I have, I would maybe have to drop Toney for another receiver if he is inactive. But we'll worry about that when we get there. Hopefully he plays and I can just keep him on the team and play him this week. Other than that, though, Cowboys against Denver for DST. This is my kicker, this is my punter, and this is my head coach. Yes, we have punters and head coaches in this league. It's just a fun league with some friends, man. We're having a good time here. And then other than that, this is our final league to cover. This is a dynasty league, 1 quarterback, half PPR. Here's a recap of last week. I had myself a nice little week, 125.1 to 113.02. Tom Brady, Mixon, and Jonathan Taylor all good weeks. Dallas Goedert had an okay game at tight end. Chris Godwin even though I do have Antonio Brown in a couple leagues and that's hurting me, it is increasing Chris Godwin's usage a little bit, it seems like. And he's been very productive with Antonio Brown out lately. So at least in this league, it worked out in my favor. And Godwin, I made him a stardom, I think the last 2 weeks in my stardom sit-em videos, and that call paid off hugely. Chris Godwin has been amazing lately. But we're going to be without him this week, so we will have to go over that, as well as Tom Brady. Hopkins, he left early. He had a big play, left early with an injury. Mike Williams didn't do much. James Robinson left early. And here is the bench as well, if you care about any of that. Did I make any really bad calls? McKissick had a good game, but I wasn't really going to play him over anybody. Yeah, so that's it for that matchup. Here are the transactions that went through in this league. You can kind of take a quick look at that if you care. You can pause it. There was a trade that went through. Someone got Melvin Gordon. It was kind of like a little bit of a... He was traded to more of a win-now team from a rebuilding team, so that was a smart trade right there, because Melvin Gordon has some value this year, but long-term, he'll be out of the league, before you know it. That's what happens to running backs. He's getting up there in age. But in terms of transactions I made, did I specifically make any transactions? I don't think I did make one. Yeah, so I added Cedric Wilson and cut Tevin Coleman. Nothing too major there. Cedric Wilson has just been surprisingly relevant, granted on not a lot of volume, but he's shown some ability. So, in a dynasty league, I think maybe Cedric Wilson becomes somewhat relevant long-term, whereas Tevin Coleman, he's getting up there in age. He hasn't really done much in years, so I figured I'm not losing much by cutting him. And these are deep rosters, by the way, so even a guy like Tevin Coleman, you have to, think a little bit before you cut him, but I did end up cutting him. So now it's time to set our lineup for Week 9 in our Dynasty League. Half PPR, 1 quarterback. No Tom Brady, so ultimately I'm deciding between Ben Roethlisberger and Matt Ryan. I do have Trevor Lawrence on the taxi squad. If the matchup was good enough, I would maybe take... So once I take him off of the taxi squad, I cannot put him back on there. So if I activate him, that means I have to cut someone on here on my active roster. If the matchup was good enough for Trevor Lawrence, I would activate him and cut someone, probably like a Blake Jarwin, someone like that. But he's playing Buffalo. They are a brutal defense. They're giving up no points to quarterbacks. I believe, is this saying that they're the worst matchup for quarterbacks? So even though I don't love playing Matt Ryan or Ben Roethlisberger, playing Trevor Lawrence against the Bills, either way, it's rough. So I'm going with Matt Ryan, long story short. No matter where you slice it, I have no options, really. There's really no waiver wire options at all, because pretty much every quarterback is owned, if not every quarterback. So I'm going with Matt Ryan against the Saints. No Calvin, really. It's rough, but I just have to start someone. Other than that, though, Jonathan Taylor's playing tonight against the Jets. Love that. Joe Mixon, he's been solid. We'll talk about Robinson and Hopkins in a second, but right now the other locks in my lineup are Mike Williams at wide receiver against Philly, Courtland Sutton at wide receiver against Dallas, and Chase Claypool in the flex against the Bears. Dallas Goedert against the Chargers. Is George Kittle potentially playing this week? I'm not sure if he is or not. Or does he still have a little bit to come back? I'm not sure. If he plays, I might have to consider playing him over Goddard, but Goddard has been solid, so I might just keep him in there regardless. If I put anyone else in the lineup, I'll comment it down below. Which brings me to my next point. James Robinson and DeAndre Hopkins. These are 2 players who are questionable, and they might not play. If they do play, they are in my lineup. If not, Yikes. So, looking at the bench here, man, Daryl Williams could be a potential option if Clyde Edwards-Helaire is not active. I haven't heard that he's going to come back. So, you know, let's say James Robinson is out. I can go ahead and put Daryl Williams in at that flex spot. Some other options, because we don't have Calvin Ridley either. Miles Sanders is on IR as well. I don't really love Mike Davis against New Orleans. No Alex Collins. He's on bye. Marvin Jones against Buffalo is someone... It's a tough matchup, but he's an option. And we have Jerry Jeudy as well. I am already playing Cortland Sutton, though. So I guess it all comes down to this. If Daryl Williams is starting, he would probably be my first option to replace one of those guys. Even though Hopkins is in at wide receiver, I can always move Claypool to wide receiver and flex a running back for him. So we really have flexibility there. It would probably go Daryl Williams if he's the starter. After that, I'd have to decide between Marvin Jones and Jerry Jeudy. But again, hopefully we don't even have to worry about that. If it comes to that, I will comment it down below. But yeah, this is the lineup as of now. I am playing the Chargers defense against Philadelphia over the Bears against Pittsburgh. Big Ben is listed as questionable. If he doesn't play, I mean, maybe I go with the Bears, but as of now, I'm going with the Chargers. But yeah, those are all the decisions I had to make this week. We had a lot of stuff to go through this week. Tons of questionable players, tons of players on bye, tons of injuries going on right now. So I'm sure you guys are going through it as well. Hopefully, as you watch this video, you got something out of it. You can kind of see my approach to dealing with these situations. And, you know, maybe you have some similar injury situations, bye week situations going on in your own league. So hopefully something was helpful, even if it wasn't a direct player for player start sit comparison. Hopefully you at least get to see a little bit of my mindset that goes into some of these things. When I'm factoring in the matchup, the opportunity, long-term versus short-term value, especially in a league like Dynasty, or the case where I dropped Daryl Williams so I could lock down the Tennessee backfield. Hopefully that's somewhat valuable. But yeah, that's going to do it for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I hope your fantasy seasons are going well. Unless you're in a league with me, then I hope you're not doing that well. But good luck in week 9, and I will talk to you guys later. Make sure to drop a like, subscribe to the channel. See ya.